The Veltran threat emerges. In the vast expanse of space, humanity had spread its wings, establishing colonies on distant worlds. These outposts of human civilization were beacons of hope and progress, each one a testament to the indomitable spirit of exploration that had driven mankind to the stars. But in the darkness between those distant lights, a new threat was stirring. The Veltran Empire, a species unknown to humanity, had been watching from the shadows. Their vast fleets had conquered countless civilizations across the galaxy, leaving nothing but destruction in their wake. To the Veltrans, the scattered human colonies appeared as easy prey, ripe for plunder. On the outermost human colony of New Eden, life proceeded as it always had. The settlers went about their daily routines, tending to the vast hydroponic farms that fed the population and maintaining the complex atmospheric processors that made the alien world habitable. None of them could have predicted the storm that was about to break upon them. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of New Eden's Central Command, her eyes scanning the horizon. The twin suns of the system were setting, painting the sky in hues of purple and orange. It was a sight that never failed to take her breath away, even after 5 years on this alien world. "Beautiful, isn't it?" a voice said behind her. Sarah turned to see Dr. Marcus Reed, the colony's chief scientist, joining her at the window. "It never gets old," Sarah replied with a smile. "How are the new crop yields looking?" Marcus's face lit up with excitement. "Better than we could have hoped. The genetic modifications are holding up well against the local parasites. I think we might be able to start exporting food to the inner colonies within the next cycle." Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden blaring of alarms. Red warning lights flashed throughout the command center, and the calm of the evening was shattered by a cacophony of urgent voices and rushing footsteps. "What's happening?" Sarah demanded, rushing to the main console where her second-in-command, Lieutenant David Reeves, was frantically working the controls. "Multiple unknown vessels just dropped out of FTL on the edge of our system," David reported, his voice tense. "They're not responding to hails, and they're moving fast. ETA to New Eden, 15 minutes. Sarah's mind raced. New Eden had basic defenses, but nothing that could stand up to a determined assault. They were too far from Earth to call for immediate help. Whatever was coming, they would have to face it alone. "Sound the general alarm," she ordered. "I want all non-essential personnel in the shelters. Get our defense grid online and prepare for potential evacuation." As the colony sprang into action, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just a random encounter. The speed and precision of the approaching ships spoke of military efficiency. This was an invasion. In orbit above New Eden, the Veltran war fleet emerged from the darkness of space. Their ships were sleek and predatory, bristling with weapons far beyond anything humanity had encountered before. In the lead vessel, Fleet Commander Zarkath watched the blue-green world below with cold satisfaction. "Primitive defenses," he noted to his subordinates. "They won't even slow us down. Commence the attack. Take what we need, destroy the rest. Let this be the first of many human worlds to fall before the might of the Veltran Empire." The first shots fired by the Veltran ships tore through New Eden's orbital defenses like they were made of paper. On the planet's surface, Sarah and her team watched in horror as their satellite network went dark, cutting them off from any hope of calling for help. "We need to evacuate," Marcus urged, his earlier excitement replaced by fear. "We can't fight this." Sarah shook her head, her jaw set with determination. "We can't abandon the colony. There are over 10,000 people here who can't all fit on our evacuation ships. We stand and fight." As the Veltran ships entered the atmosphere, their weapons blazing, the people of New Eden prepared for a battle they knew they couldn't win. But in their resistance, in their refusal to simply lay down and die, they were about to light a spark that would soon become a raging inferno across human space. The initial assault was devastating. Veltran troops, clad in advanced battle armor that seemed to shrug off the colonists' weapons, poured from their landing craft. They moved with ruthless efficiency, securing key infrastructure and rounding up civilians. Sarah led a desperate defense from the Central Command, coordinating what little resistance they could muster. "Hold the line," she shouted over the comm system, even as reports of breaches came in from all sectors. "Every minute we hold them back is another minute for our people to reach the shelters." In the chaos of the battle, Dr. Marcus Reed found himself separated from the main group, trapped in his research lab with a handful of terrified assistants. As Veltran soldiers attempted to break down the reinforced door, Marcus made a fateful decision. "The David," he said, his voice surprisingly calm. "All our research, our discoveries, we can't let it fall into their hands." Working quickly, Marcus and his team began to upload everything they could to a secure, quantum-encrypted channel. It was a long shot, a desperate attempt to preserve years of work that might prove crucial for humanity's survival. As the door began to give way, Marcus hit the final command, sending the data streaking across space towards Earth. Outside, the battle was turning into a slaughter. The colonists fought bravely, but they were hopelessly outmatched. Sarah watched from her command post as sector after sector fell to the invaders. But even in the face of certain defeat, she saw acts of incredible bravery. Civilians risking their lives to help others to safety, off-duty security personnel forming impromptu resistance cells, even children helping to guide people through hidden tunnels to the emergency bunkers. As the Veltran forces closed in on the Central Command, Sarah made her final broadcast. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of New Eden Colony. We are under attack by an unknown alien force. To anyone who can hear this message, Earth must be warned. We have failed to defend our home, but we will not go quietly. Remember us. Avenge us." And to the invaders, she paused, her voice filled with defiance. "You have no idea what you've just started." With that, Sarah Chen cut the transmission and turned to face the oncoming Veltran troops. She knew it was hopeless, but she would meet her end on her feet, weapon in hand, defending the people she had sworn to protect. As New Eden fell, similar scenes were playing out across other human colonies. The Veltran invasion had begun, and humanity found itself facing an enemy unlike any it had encountered before. But in the ashes of these first defeats, a resistance was already beginning to form. The Veltrans had struck hard and fast, but they had underestimated the human spirit. The war for survival was just beginning, and humanity would prove to be a far more formidable foe than the Veltrans could have ever imagined. Humanity's colonies under siege. The fall of New Eden was only the beginning. Like a tidal wave of destruction, the Veltran fleet swept through the outer colonies, leaving ruin in their wake. Helios Prime, Novaterra, Elysium. One by one, humanity's hard-won worlds fell to the relentless alien assault. Each colony fought bravely, but against the overwhelming technological superiority of the Veltrans, their efforts seemed futile. On Earth, the first distress calls were met with disbelief, then horror, as the scale of the invasion became clear. The United Earth government convened in an emergency session, trying to come to grips with a threat they had never anticipated. Admiral Elena Vega, the highest-ranking officer in Earth's fledgling space navy, stood before the assembled leaders, her face grim. "The situation is dire," she reported, her voice steady despite the weight of her words. "We've lost contact with over a dozen outer colonies. The few transmissions we've received paint a picture of an enemy with technology far beyond our own. Our colonial forces are putting up a fight, but they're outgunned and outmatched." The room erupted in a cacophony of voices, fear and anger mixing in equal measure. "How did we not see this coming?" one representative demanded. "Where were our early warning systems?" Admiral Vega's response was blunt. "The enemy used some form of advanced stealth technology. They were on top of our colonies before anyone knew they were there. We're dealing with an adversary unlike anything we've encountered before." As the gravity of the situation sank in, a sense of despair began to spread. Humanity had only recently begun to reach for the stars, And now it seemed their dreams of expansion were being crushed by an implacable foe. But even as the outer colonies fell, pockets of resistance began to form. On Novaterra, a mining colony known for its rich mineral deposits, a group of engineers led by the brilliant but eccentric Dr. Zhou Chang managed to repurpose mining equipment into makeshift weapons. They couldn't stop the Veltran advance, but they made the invaders pay dearly for every inch of ground they took. On Elysium, famed for its lush jungles and diverse ecosystem, park ranger turned guerrilla leader Carlos Ortiz organized the survivors into a formidable resistance movement. Using their intimate knowledge of the planet's treacherous terrain, they conducted hit-and-run attacks on Veltran patrols, proving that even with superior technology, the aliens could be vulnerable. These acts of defiance, while unable to turn the tide of the invasion, served a crucial purpose. They bought time for evacuees to escape, time for vital data to be transmitted back to Earth, and time for humanity to prepare its response. Back on Earth, as reports of these brave last stands trickled in, the mood began to shift. The initial shock and despair gave way to a grim determination. Humanity had been knocked down, but it wasn't out of the fight yet. In classified facilities around the globe, scientists and engineers worked around the clock, analyzing every scrap of data on Veltran technology they could get their hands on. Dr. Aisha Patel, a prodigy in the field of quantum physics, made a breakthrough that would prove crucial in the coming conflict. Their FTL drives, she explained to a room full of military brass and government officials. They're using a form of quantum tunneling we theorized, but never managed to achieve. But now that we know it's possible, we can work on countering it. More importantly, we might be able to adapt it for our own use. This revelation sparked a new hope. If humanity could level the technological playing field, even partially, they might stand a chance against the Veltran onslaught. Meanwhile, in orbital shipyards that had once been used for peaceful exploration, a transformation was taking place. Civilian ships were being hastily retrofitted with weapons and armor. New warships, designed with the Veltran threat in mind, were under construction. It was a massive undertaking, an industrialization of space on a scale never before seen in human history. Admiral Vega oversaw the preparation of this new fleet, pushing the limits of what was thought possible. "We don't have the luxury of time," she told her officers. "Every day we spend preparing is another day our people suffer under Veltran occupation. We'll launch as soon as we're able, ready or not." As humanity rallied its forces, the Veltrans continued their advance, but they were encountering more resistance than they had anticipated. What had started as an easy conquest was turning into a grueling campaign. On the Veltran command ship, Fleet Commander Zarkath received reports of the ongoing operations with growing frustration. "How are these primitives still resisting?" he demanded of his subordinates. "They should have been crushed by now." His second-in-command, Sub-Commander Vexara, offered a cautious response. "The humans are adaptable, sir. They're learning faster than we expected. And they fight with a ferocity we haven't seen before. It's almost as if..." "As if what?" Zarkath snapped. "As if they have nothing to lose," Vexara finished. "They're fighting for survival, and it's making them dangerous." Zarkath dismissed these concerns with a wave of his hand. "They're vermin, nothing more. Once we reach their homeworld, this resistance will crumble. Press the attack. I want Earth in sight within the cycle." But even as he gave the order, a seed of doubt had been planted. The Veltrans had conquered many species in their long history of expansion, but none had fought back quite like this. They had underestimated humanity, and that mistake would cost them dearly. In the colonies still under siege, hope was a rare commodity. But stories began to spread. Whispers of Earth preparing a counterattack, rumors of secret weapons being developed. For the embattled colonists, these tales were a lifeline, something to cling to in their darkest hours. On Helios Prime, now a staging ground for Veltran forces, a captured human engineer named Michael Torres worked tirelessly under the watchful eyes of his alien overseers. The Veltrans had put him to work maintaining their equipment, not realizing that with every repair, every inspection, Michael was learning. He memorized details of Veltran technology, looking for weaknesses, for anything that could give humanity an edge. "Just you wait," he muttered under his breath as he worked, his words a silent promise to his captors. "Earth is coming. And when they do, you'll see what humans are really capable of." As the Veltran fleet pushed ever closer to the heart of human space, a sense of anticipation built on both sides. The invaders, confident in their superiority, eager to deliver the final blow to this unexpectedly troublesome species, and humanity, its back against the wall, preparing to fight with everything it had for its very survival. The stage was set for a confrontation that would determine the fate not just of Earth, but of human civilization itself. In shipyards and laboratories, in the halls of government and in the occupied colonies, humanity steeled itself for the battle to come. The Veltrans had started this war, but humanity was determined to end it. Earth prepares its response. As the Veltran invasion fleet pushed deeper into human-controlled space, Earth was a hive of frenzied activity. The initial shock of the attack had given way to a grim determination that permeated every aspect of society. Humanity had been caught off guard, but it was rapidly mobilizing for a fight unlike any in its history. In the sprawling underground complex beneath Geneva, the United Earth Defense Council was in perpetual session. Military leaders, scientists, and government officials worked around the clock, coordinating a response to the Veltran threat. The stakes couldn't have been higher. The very survival of the human race hung in the balance. Admiral Elena Vega stood at the center of this storm, overseeing the unprecedented military buildup. Under her leadership, Earth's disparate space forces were being unified into a single, cohesive fleet. But it wasn't just about numbers. Humanity needed an edge if it was going to stand a chance against the technologically superior Veltrans. "We can't match them ship for ship," Vega explained to the assembled council. "But we don't have to. We just need to be smarter, more adaptable. Hit them where they least expect it." Dr. Aisha Patel, the quantum physicist whose breakthroughs had given humanity hope, worked closely with the military to implement her discoveries. "We're reverse engineering Veltran tech based on the data we've received from the colonies," she reported. "It's not a perfect solution, but it's giving us insights into their weaknesses." One of those insights led to the development of a new type of shield technology. By analyzing the frequency of Veltran weapons, Dr. Patel and her team created a modulating shield that could adapt in real time to enemy attacks. It wasn't impenetrable, but it gave human ships a fighting chance. In orbital shipyards, a new class of warship was taking shape. The Defiant-class destroyers were smaller than their Veltran counterparts, but packed with cutting-edge technology. They were designed for hit-and-run tactics, able to strike hard and fast before disappearing again. Commander Jack Harper, one of Earth's most decorated naval officers, was chosen to lead the first squadron of these new ships. As he watched his vessel, the ESS Artemis, undergo its final preparations, he felt a mix of pride and apprehension. "She's a beauty," his executive officer, Lieutenant Sarah Chen, remarked. Sarah had survived the fall of New Eden, one of the few to escape the colony's destruction. Her experiences had left her with a Commander Jack Harper nodded in agreement with Lieutenant Sarah Chen's assessment of the ESS Artemis. "That she is, Lieutenant. But it's not about beauty. It's about whether she can stand up to the Veltrans." Sarah's eyes hardened. "Oh, she'll do more than stand up to them. Sir, we're going to make them regret ever setting foot in our space." As final preparations were made across Earth's shipyards, a different kind of battle was being waged on the ground. Dr. Marcus Reed, who had managed to transmit crucial research data before the fall of New Eden, now led a team of xenobiologists and military strategists in an effort to understand their enemy. "The Veltrans aren't invincible," Marcus explained to a room full of senior officers. "They have vulnerabilities, just like any species. We've analyzed samples of their biology from battlefield remains. Their cellular structure, while alien, has certain weaknesses we might be able to exploit. This information led to the development of new types of weapons, tailored bioweapons that could target Veltran physiology without harming humans. It was a controversial move, with some arguing it crossed ethical lines. But in a war for survival, many felt such concerns were a luxury they couldn't afford. Meanwhile, on the diplomatic front, humanity reached out to other spacefaring races. Many had been content to stay neutral, seeing the human-Veltran conflict as someone else's problem. But Earth's ambassadors painted a stark picture. If humanity fell, who would be next? This appeal found sympathetic ears among some species. The Arcadians, a race of highly advanced AI constructs, offered technological assistance. The Zelak, a warrior culture with a strict code of honor, were outraged by the Veltran's sneak attack and pledged their support. These alliances, while not enough to turn the tide alone, gave humanity's efforts a crucial boost. More importantly, they showed that Earth wasn't standing alone against the darkness. As the day of the counterattack approached, a sense of nervous energy permeated every level of society. Civilians did their part, with factories working around the clock to produce everything from spacecraft components to ration packs. Schools were converted into training centers, preparing everyone from teenagers to retirees for the possibility of ground combat if the Veltrans reached Earth. In a secure facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, a team led by Dr. Zhou Cheng, the engineer who had led the resistance on Novaterra, put the finishing touches on a secret weapon. Project Prometheus was a massive electromagnetic pulse device designed to disable Veltran ships en masse. It's a gamble, Zhou admitted to Admiral Vega during a final briefing. We don't know for sure how it'll affect their systems, but if it works, it could change the course of the war. Vega finished. Good work, Doctor. Let's hope we don't need to use it. As the launch date for the counteroffensive neared, Admiral Vega addressed the combined forces of Earth's fleet. Her words were broadcast to every ship, every base, and every home on the planet. Men and women of Earth, we stand at a crossroads in human history. The Veltrans came to our homes, destroyed our colonies, and thought we would simply roll over and die. They were wrong. We are humanity. Explorers, innovators, survivors. We have faced extinction before, and each time we've come back stronger. This is no different. She paused, her eyes scanning the faces before her, seeing the mix of fear and determination. The road ahead will be hard. We will face losses, setbacks, moments of doubt. But remember this, we're not just fighting for our lives, we're fighting for our future. For every human child who deserves to grow up under free skies, for every colony that believed in the dream of a better tomorrow. The Veltrans think they know war. We're going to show them what happens when humanity is pushed to the brink. We will take back our colonies. We will drive them from our space, and we will make damn sure they never threaten us again. A cheer went up from the assembled crews, a roar of defiance that seemed to shake the very stars. As humanity's fleet prepared to launch, as the first ships began to rise from Earth's surface, there was a palpable sense that history was being made. The Veltrans had started this war, confident in their superiority. But humanity was about to remind the galaxy of an old lesson. It's not the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight in the dog. And humanity, with its back against the wall, was ready to show just how much fight it had. As the Earth Defense Fleet moved into position, ready to make the jump to light speed, Admiral Vega gave the final order. All ships, prepare for hyperspace jump. Our destination, New Eden. It's time to take back what's ours. With a flash of light, humanity's counterattack began. The war for Earth's survival was entering its next decisive phase. The fleet arrives. The vast emptiness of space was suddenly alive with light as the Earth Defense Fleet dropped out of hyperspace on the outskirts of the New Eden system. Hundreds of ships, from nimble fighters to massive battlecruisers, formed up in precise formation. At the head of the fleet, aboard the flagship EFS Excalibur, Admiral Lelina Vega surveyed the tactical display with steely determination. "Status report," she commanded, her voice calm despite the tension that filled the bridge. "All ships accounted for, Admiral," her tactical officer responded. "No sign of Veltran patrols yet. It seems we've achieved surprise." Vega nodded, allowing herself a small smile. The new stealth systems developed by Dr. Patel's team had worked perfectly, allowing the fleet to approach undetected. But she knew the element of surprise wouldn't last long. "Send the signal. All ships, battle stations, launch fighter squadrons. It's time to take back what's ours." Across the fleet, klaxons blared as crews rushed to their posts. In the hangar bay of the EFS Artemis, Commander Jack Harper climbed into the cockpit of his fighter, with Lieutenant Sarah Chen right behind him in her own craft. "Remember the plan," Jack's voice crackled over the comm. "We hit their orbital defenses hard and fast. Clear the way for the ground assault teams." "Copy that," Sarah replied, her voice tight with anticipation. "Let's show these Veltran bastards what happens when they mess with humanity." As the fighters streamed out of the hangar bays, the larger ships of the fleet began to move into attack formation. The element of surprise had given them a critical advantage, but Vega knew it wouldn't be long before the Veltrans rallied their forces. On the surface of New Eden, the Veltran occupation forces were caught completely off guard. Alarms blared across their hastily established bases as the sky lit up with the flashes of orbital combat. In the main Veltran command center, hastily set up in the ruins of the colonial capital, Sub-Commander Vexera stared at the tactical displays in disbelief. "Impossible," she muttered. "How did they get past our detection grid?" She turned to her communications officer. "Send word to the fleet. We need reinforcements immediately." But even as the call for help went out, the battle in orbit was already turning against the Veltrans. The human ships, while outnumbered, fought with a ferocity that caught their enemies off guard. The new shield technology allowed them to withstand barrages that would have obliterated them before, while their own weapons, enhanced with insights gained from studying Veltran tech, struck with devastating effect. Commander Harper led his fighter squadron in a daring attack run on the main Veltran command ship. "Artemis Squadron, form up on me," he ordered. "We've got one shot at this. Make it count." The human fighters weaved through a storm of enemy fire, their pilots pushing their machines to the limit. Sarah Chen's voice came over the comm, tense but determined. "Multiple bogies on our 6, Commander." "I see them," Jack replied. "Evasive maneuvers, don't let them get a lock." The dogfight that ensued was unlike anything in human military history. Earth fighters, nimble and responsive, danced around their larger Veltran counterparts. What the human craft lacked in raw power, they made up for in agility and the sheer skill of their pilots. As the battle raged in space, the ground assault began. Drop ships punched through the weakening Veltran defenses, delivering elite teams of human soldiers to the surface of New Eden. Among them was a special forces unit led by Captain Carlos Ortiz, the former park ranger who had led the resistance on Elysium. "Remember your training," Ortiz told his team as their drop ship hurtled towards the surface. "The Veltrans have the home field advantage now, but this was our world first. We're taking it back." The drop ships landed under heavy fire, but the human forces quickly established beachheads. The battles that followed were brutal, street-to-street fighting through the ruins of once thriving colonial cities. But the human soldiers, driven by a mix of revenge and desperation, fought with unprecedented determination. In orbit, Admiral Vega watched the battle unfold with a mixture of pride and concern. The initial assault had gone better than she'd dared hope, but the Veltrans were rallying. A massive enemy fleet had just arrived at the edge of the system, responding to the distress call. "This is it," Vega muttered. "The moment of truth." She opened a channel to the entire fleet. "All ships, be advised. Major Veltran reinforcements have just arrived. Prepare for Phase 2 of the operation." On cue, a small, unmarked ship detached itself from the Excalibur's hull. On board was Dr. Zhou Chang and her team, along with the experimental weapon they had developed, Project Prometheus. "We're in position, Admiral," Zhou reported, "ready to activate on your command." Vega took a deep breath. Everything hinged on this moment. "You have a go, Doctor. May God have mercy on us all." Zhou's fingers flew over the controls, initiating the complex startup sequence for Prometheus. The device hummed to life, building up an enormous charge of electromagnetic energy. "Activation in 3, 2, 1, Zhou called out. A blinding pulse of energy erupted from the small ship, expanding outward in a massive sphere. As it washed over the Veltran ships, their systems began to fail. Lights flickered and died, weapons fell silent, and engines sputtered out. For a moment, there was an eerie silence in space. Then, Vega's voice rang out. "All ships, press the attack. Take them down while they're vulnerable." The human fleet surged forward, unleashing everything they had against the disabled Veltran ships. It was a slaughter. Vessel after vessel erupted in silent explosions, unable to defend themselves. On the surface of New Eden, the Veltran ground forces found themselves suddenly cut off from orbital support. Their advanced weapons and communication systems, so reliant on the technology rendered useless by Prometheus, began to fail. Captain Ortiz and his team seized the opportunity. "Push forward," he yelled to his soldiers. "They're on the back foot now. Let's show them what it means to mess with humanity." As the battle turned decisively in humanity's favor, Sub-Commander Vexera made a fateful decision. Initiate emergency protocols. She ordered her remaining officers. "We must get word back to the Empire. This changes everything." A handful of Veltran ships, shielded from the effects of Prometheus by chance or design, broke away from the battle. They fled at maximum speed, carrying with them news that would shake the Veltran Empire to its core. As the last pockets of Veltran resistance were mopped up, a cheer went up across the human fleet. New Eden, the first human world to fall to the invasion, was back in human hands. Admiral Vega allowed herself a moment of satisfaction before turning to her communications officer. "Send word to Earth. New Eden is secure. Operation Reclamation is a go." The battle for New Eden was over, but the war was far from finished. However, for the first time since the Veltran invasion began, humanity dared to hope. They had struck back, hard and effectively, proving that the aliens were not invincible. As the dust settled on New Eden's surface, as human flags once again flew over the colonial capital, the message was clear. Humanity was back in the fight, and they weren't going down without one hell of a battle. Turning the tide. The victory at New Eden marked a turning point in the war against the Veltrans. News of humanity's successful counterattack spread rapidly across both human and Veltran space, igniting a spark of hope in occupied colonies and sending shockwaves through the Veltran Empire. Admiral Elena Vega wasted no time in capitalizing on this momentum. From the bridge of the EF's Excalibur, she coordinated a series of lightning strikes against Veltran-held worlds. The element of surprise, combined with the devastating effectiveness of Project Prometheus, allowed human forces to liberate colony after colony. On Helios Prime, Michael Torres, the engineer who had been forced to work for the Veltrans, led an uprising of human prisoners. When the Earth Defense Fleet arrived, they found the Veltran garrison already in disarray, making the liberation swift and decisive. "I told you Earth was coming," Michael said to a defeated Veltran officer as human troops secured the colony. "Never underestimate humanity's will to survive." Meanwhile, Dr. Aisha Patel and her team worked tirelessly to refine and improve upon the technologies that had given humanity its edge. The modulating shields became even more effective, while weapons systems were further enhanced with insights gained from captured Veltran tech. But the war was far from over. The Veltran Empire, reeling from its losses, began to mobilize its full might. Fleet Commander Zarkath, furious at the unexpected reversal, called for the complete annihilation of humanity. "These primitives have proven more troublesome than anticipated," He raged to the Veltran High Command. We must crush them utterly, leave nothing but ashes in our wake. The Veltran response was brutal. Massive fleets, dwarfing anything seen before, began to push back against the human advance. Worlds that had just tasted freedom found themselves under siege once more. On Earth, the United Earth Defense Council grappled with the escalating conflict. The war had already cost millions of lives and strained resources to the breaking point. Some voices called for seeking a negotiated peace, arguing that humanity couldn't withstand a prolonged war of attrition against the vastly larger Veltran Empire. But Admiral Vega stood firm. "We can't back down now," she argued. "The Veltrans have shown they won't be satisfied until we're wiped out. Our only path to survival is victory." Her words were proven prophetic when intercepted Veltran communications revealed plans for a massive assault on Earth itself. The Veltrans, it seemed, had decided to end the war with one devastating blow. As news of the impending attack spread, humanity rallied like never before. Every available ship was pressed into service. Civilian vessels were hastily armed and added to the defense fleet. On Earth's surface, cities were fortified, and populations prepared for potential invasion. Commander Jack Harper, now promoted to captain following his heroics at New Eden, was given command of a task force charged with delaying the Veltran advance. "We're the tripwire," he told his crews. "Our job is to slow them down, buy Earth time to prepare. Whatever it takes." The battles that followed were some of the fiercest of the war. Harper's forces struck at Veltran supply lines, ambushed scout ships, and led the enemy on wild chases through asteroid fields and nebula. Every hour they delayed the Veltran advance meant more time for Earth to ready its defenses. Back on Earth, Dr. Zhou Cheng and her team worked frantically to develop a new version of Project Prometheus. "The Veltrans have started to adapt to the original design," she explained to Admiral Vega. "We need something they won't see coming." As the Veltran Armada approached Earth, the planet's defenses were as ready as they could be. A vast fleet of human and allied ships formed a protective screen around the planet. On the surface, ground-to-space weapons were primed and ready. The battle that ensued was unlike anything in human history. The sky lit up with the flashes of weapon fire and explosions as thousands of ships clashed in Earth's orbit. On the ground, millions watched with bated breath, knowing that their very existence hung in the balance. At first, it seemed that the sheer numbers of the Veltran fleet might overwhelm Earth's defenses. But humanity fought with the desperation of a species with nowhere left to retreat. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier gave their all. The tide began to turn when Dr. Chang's team activated the new version of Prometheus. This time, instead of merely disabling Veltran ships, it turned their own systems against them. Veltran vessels began to fire on each other, their commanders unable to regain control. In the chaos that followed, humanity seized its chance. Led by Admiral Vega aboard the Excalibur, the Earth Defense Fleet pushed forward, driving into the heart of the Veltran Armada. "All ships, this is Admiral Vega," her voice rang out across the comm channels. "The Veltran command ship is vulnerable. This is our chance to end this war. All units, converge on my position. We're taking that ship." The battle that followed was brutal and costly, but in the end, humanity emerged victorious. The Veltran command ship was captured, Fleet Commander Zarkath taken prisoner, and the remaining Veltran forces routed. As the dust settled, and the extent of humanity's victory became clear, celebrations erupted across Earth and its colonies. They had done the impossible, faced down an overwhelmingly superior foe, and emerged triumphant. In the aftermath of the battle, humanity's position in the galaxy was irrevocably changed. The defeat of the Veltrans had proven that humans were a force to be reckoned with. Other alien races, impressed by humanity's resilience and ingenuity, sought alliances and trade agreements. Admiral Vega, hailed as the savior of humanity, stood before the United Earth Defense Council one last time. "We've won a great victory," she said, "but our work is not done. We must rebuild, strengthen our defenses, and take our place among the stars. The galaxy now knows what humanity is capable of when pushed to the brink. Let's show them what we can do in times of peace. As humanity looked to the future, the stars no longer seemed like a threat, but a promise. They had faced their greatest challenge and emerged stronger for it. The Veltran War had cost them dearly, but it had also united humanity like never before and propelled them into a new era of technological advancement and interstellar cooperation. The message was clear. Humanity was here to stay, a young but formidable presence in the cosmic community. And whatever challenges the universe might throw at them next, they would face them together, stronger and wiser for the trials they had overcome.